when you officially sign those exit documents, what's that feeling like? Is it happiness? Is it fleeting? Like, what's going through your mind then?
Well, each one is different. That there's no consistency. And these weren't big VC exits. These were other styles of exit. They feel great. I mean, who's getting who? You validated, you made it. Cool beans. All right. We kicked ass, we cut numbers, we worked our tail off, and we ultimately got somewhere. Yay. That's cool. That's way cool. But it's not necessarily working towards that exit. It's working towards, I mean, some degree of it is, but a good portion of that is also making a technology come to market, which is huge. And that can be tech to med tech to anything. Just making that happen is a really big, wow, that's huge. So it doesn't have to be the check with however many zeros. It could be, it actually is selling. People are using our stuff and they're coming back to us saying more, love it. That's huge.
What's up, Business's Blumin Squad? I just wrapped up my conversation with Alan Kadish, better known as Dr. Alan Kadish. So Alan is actually a physician, and he got his first taste of entrepreneurship while he was a doctor by helping people with loans for their businesses. And as he was doing this, he actually got a chance to learn about their business models and how different kinds of businesses operate. On a more personal note, from the entrepreneurial end, Alan also has 2 exits, and he gets the funding process from both the investor and the entrepreneur perspectives. So he's dealt with all the headaches of the funding process, and now he's looking to alleviate those headaches with his newest venture, InvestorMatch.ai. So to hear more, tune in. Alan, welcome to the podcast, man.
Greetings.
Happy we were able to make today work. For those that don't know, a few weeks ago, we had a few technical difficulties, but we fought it out and we were able to make it through. So really excited that we were able to put this together. And Alan, I love the kind of work that you're doing as an entrepreneur, and we'll get into all that fun stuff. But before we get into that, before you were an entrepreneur, you were actually a doctor. I mean, you still are a doctor technically, but you had some experience in medicine. So what can you tell me about that?
So doctoring is very much, at least in the old days, is very much like entrepreneurship. There really is very limited difference. In this case, as a sole practitioner, I was and am an entrepreneur. So it's one and the same. But as we were talking just a few moments earlier, my beginnings with entrepreneurship actually started as a kid. I watched my parents do their thing, and my dad actually at one point had an opportunity to be an entrepreneur, tried it a little bit, and I think my mom dumped on him. I never got the whole story and said, no, you need a steady income plan. So I watched that go up in flames, and I watched my cousins, in particular a physician, do very, very well, and said, there's got to be other things out there. I think I'll do better if maybe I take a different course of action. So that's how that came about. But as a youngster, whether we're shoveling snow, sowing seeds, fixing cars, doing construction, I can just keep listing. It was one thing after another to make things come together, and it basically has that entrepreneurial, I want to make it work, and I want to learn. So each one of those was a learning experience. Each one of them gave me a little bit more foundation into what to do and what not to do. Doctoring has been a wonderful experience. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I'll put that out there just so that we're clear. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to do this. If you want to do biomedical engineering, oh yeah, now we're talking, you're in the right place. Doctoring per se, remember you're an N01, unless of course you're doing an MBA and then maybe doing a financial end, or you're running a large organization. But that's not quite the same.
Definitely.
Yeah. So there's your story. The doctoring has been a lot of fun. I love it because I get to play detective. That's what drives me. And being a concierge physician, I get to choose my patients and vice versa. It's a two-way street, not, I have to see X number of people per minute. I don't work like that. So it's really delightful.
For sure. A better way to work. But going back to when you were a kid, you mentioned you did a few things as an entrepreneur. Did you have like a favorite business when you were a kid, or the favorite thing that you enjoyed doing to kind of stretch that entrepreneurship muscle?
I think building cars and motorcycles, quite frankly. So my dad was an electrical and mechanical engineer, and our toys, or my toys, or gearboxes, electrical parts and pieces. And so that's what I grew up with. That we didn't have money for the fancy toys. So he would bring stuff back for work, which is great. And I love the complex, how does it fit together? How does it function? I tell you apart to put it back together. So I enjoyed doing high-speed motors for motorcycles, for cars, did everything from learning how to paint them to pull the motor back to the last nut and bolt.
Got it. Cool. So you know how to, like, for example, if I were to bring you like pieces of a car, you would know how to put it together?
What I used to do, this is a quick funny story. I used to buy what's called basket cases. What's a basket case? Back in the day, when you took your motorcycle apart to fix it, if you weren't handy enough, you ultimately ended up with a bunch of parts sitting around. And I would go around and always, not to the owner, but to the old lady who's, and I shouldn't say it that way, but to the woman of the home generally, who would be looking at it, or what is this piece of crap that's been sitting here for a year? And I offered it $50, $100, whatever it was. Wouldn't you like this too? Be gone. And then he turns to the individual who owns it and say, I know you've looked at this. I know it's your baby, but guess what? Let's get rid of it. You're just never going to come together again. Let's just get it out of your face. You'll be a happier camper tomorrow. Everybody will be happy. Here's a couple of bucks. And then I put them together. It's not practical these days, so don't even go thinking about it. And parts are too expensive, and there's not enough money in it. So Entrepreneurial, it was great in the day, not today.
Yep, sign of the times. What can we do? You mentioned that, I'll get into the entrepreneurship thing in a second, but back from like when you were a physician, back in those days, I'm sure you've heard a lot of crazy health advice, especially among the doctor community. And it seems that like the highest levels of whatever field, but especially in medicine, there's a ton of disagreements about everything. So from your experience, what's the worst piece of health advice you ever heard?
Boy, that is a long list. Let's start from the top. You probably see all this nonsense about diets. OMG. There are so many dingwits out there. And sorry, I know I'm being really rough on this, but realistically, one of the things that I constantly am hit with is, but there's a special diet. Really? Get rid. Well, let's get back to brass tacks here, guys. Come on, come on. The body has a certain nutrient needs. It has various metabolic pathways, and common sense somehow got lost somewhere. And I love it when I hear people say, I'll give you a good example. There is no such thing as the Mediterranean diet. Anybody who tells you that clearly doesn't know their history. And why do I say that? The original work done in the 1960s, yeah, back then, the fellow who did the groundbreaking blue, um, uh, we can take approach to this. Who lives the longest? Who does best? He did not find consistency. This is a joke. So he went from Crete, he went to Greece, he went to Italy, he went all over. The guy really did a great job. And his conclusion was, it depends. What does it depend on? Where you live. It depends on, and there were so many different parameters that he put into play. A number of groups in the commercial end of the dietetic industry actually paid to play games with this. And there's a great book on it. I don't recall the name of the book, but you can look it up. There's actually a book on it's a fraud, the Mediterranean diet. And yet I hear people still tell me this. Oh, I'm following the Mediterranean diet. Well, from where? What are you talking about? So there's a good one. It's one example. That there are so many. One of the things you learn in medical school, here's the quick one if you haven't been in medical school, the first day you come, some little coot gets up on stage and says, guess what? 50% of everything you learn is probably going to be outdated by the time you get done and you're actually in practice. Of course, I'm scratching my head thinking, so you're going to
What am
tell
I
me
here for?
50% of BS that I got discarded and I'm going to pay for? This doesn't seem reasonable. Would you buy half of a car? Well, that doesn't seem like a good idea, but that's what it is. Medicine is incredibly slow. I don't know, most people probably appreciate this, but to get current documentation and implementation in medicine to the actual office generally takes approximately 11 to 19 years. That's insane. It's getting better because technology has made major impacts. But from what we know and what we do today, it takes so long. It's crazy.
What can you do? It sounds like there's no substitute for a balanced diet, which I think something that I've been doing for the last few years after, trying a bunch of different fads when I was younger. But it seems like that's the most consistent. I've been able to do that for 4 years. So sometimes just do the simple thing and it works. But awesome insight and great medical advice around that. But you mentioned from going, you were in medical school and obviously, you practiced medicine after that. You were a kid when you were younger. Then, as we mentioned before, you became a doctor. And then from becoming a doctor, you actually became an entrepreneur to doing your own thing. So later on, how did you make that transition between being a doctor, a physician, to pursuing an entrepreneurial path?
So if you have a business perspective, there really is no transition. Remember, as a physician, what are you doing? You're running a business. You are. That's just the nature of it. You are an entrepreneur if you're doing it on your own as opposed to within a system. So I don't really think there's a transition. I think the recognition, I mean, no, back in the day, did you talk Tam songs? Did you start talking about notes, safes or kisses or convertibles? No. Um, that's just part of the underlying. So ages ago, where I started making an income, I was able to help other people with loans. It started from that. And then you recognize their business could benefit if maybe we brought in some more people. And from that, you see a fairly linear connection to, okay, how can we do it better? What would help an entrepreneur in general to move from point A to point B? The other piece, I think that's really significant for me is I speak other languages in terms of material sciences and biomechanics, and I keep going, but learning and dabbling in that, you always come across amazing opportunities. I mean, truly amazing opportunities, not just, yeah, that sounds good, but wow, that could make a huge difference either for a lot of people or in that industry, etc. So I've always had that opportunity and I just keep taking advantage of, oh, that's very cool. Talk to me. Let's have a conversation. That's how that really morphed from. So it's not just being a physician, it's always being interested in what can I learn? How can I make that impact? Who else is out there doing something very cool? And can I be of assistance?
So it was almost a coincidence in the sense that, you had this, great medical practice and you just started, doing loans for other business owners. And then through that, you started to realize I could help them through like an X number of ways. And that's ultimately what kind of fueled your leap into that area. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of getting into it. I know there's not to get too off topic, but I think there are a lot of the Japanese banks who I think historically have lower interest rates. They kind of lean in with the balance sheet, and then it just reminds me of that because like once they secure a relationship or kind of that kind of relationship, they do a bunch of other work. So that's the thought that came to mind. So I thought that was really cool there. So, reading a little bit into your bio, I saw that you actually have two previous exits, but I want to get into that first venture for a second. What was that first big entrepreneurial venture that you worked on?
Well, there's many. So one of the things that isn't necessarily present that you wouldn't see is that at the same time I'm working in multiple areas. It's not limited to one. We had a credit reporting agency as an example. We had 17 people running crazy around. That one was an interesting exit. We developed a stem cell operation in Mexico. That was a really interesting operation. The medical practice that ultimately was a very successful circumstance. So there's been multiple exits in multiple ways, and they're not in the same industries at all. I mean, just different things sort of popped up, and all of a sudden it made sense, and gosh darn, it took off.
Yep, it's awesome that you were able to take advantage of that. But thinking about, that first major one, what was the hardest part about the early days when you went from primarily focusing on, medicine and entrepreneurship? And maybe I don't want to I wanted to sidetrack too much because obviously everything has to do with medicine, but what was the hardest part in the early days from, working primarily in the business of running a medical practice to kind of the business of working on a medical business or something more in the bio area, if that makes sense?
So understanding regulatory pathways is a big one. Obviously, there's a whole litany of necessities that have to be put into play when you're talking about medtech in general, whether it's a medical device or whether it's pharma products or some other bio uh, materials. It's really important to understand the regulatory pathways. Those are there. And there are people who absolutely know. And it's literally in and of itself its whole profession. It's that complicated. So that's one piece, at least getting the understanding of how things go from point A to point B. Obviously, there's financials. Do you understand, is this really going to make money? Does it make sense? And then from a funder's point of view, remember, we always use their multiple, be that the 10x, 30x, or whatever number you hear today after you're speaking with. Does it really hold water? Can the team actually produce what they're claiming? So I have a 3 indice reality check. Are you persistent? Are you consistent? And do you have fire in your belly? If you have those 3 components, then let's continue the conversation. Let's take a look at your finances. Let's make sure that the technology underlying whatever you're claiming holds water. And then it moves from there. But it has to have that beginning step of, you got to have that drive. Why are you doing it? Oh, so-and-so had this experience and I want to fix it. Okay, great. Are you going to follow through? Or is this just something that was off your interest as another shiny object? And can I count on the fact that you're going to be there a year from now, doing the same thing, nailing it, but with the enthusiasm?
You mentioned medical, not medical. You mentioned kind of regulations earlier. I'm happy you brought that up. But as someone that's trying to be entrepreneurial in the medical space, how do you stay on top of those regulations, especially in our current political environment where things change by the second?
It's insane. I mean, good example, last year, all the European laws changed. So even if you're in cosmetics, let alone an actual pharmaceutical product, everything changed. And now you've got such complexity that if you don't hire a firm, there's no way to do it. It's just impossible. It's that nutty. So yeah, medtech is challenging and then some, but it can be incredibly rewarding. I mean, think about it. And even OTC or other products, 10 years ago, would you have thought about a Fitbit? Would you have thought about an Oura Ring? Would you have considered an Apple Watch? Now it's commonplace. And they've really integrated from a medical perspective as well as from just a health perspective. It works. It really does work. And it's effective. It's available. And in this case, they decided not to go all the regulatory routes. They kept it at the lower end towards a commercial product as opposed to medtech. For medtech products, think about, and I don't want to focus necessarily exclusively on medicine, but we now have in office so many cool devices that we can use to do advanced evaluations, from the products that go to my phone, where it's a little optical devices with software, and I can tell you what's happening with your eyes, all the way straight through to a photo of your skin. Is it a melanoma? Is it a basal cell? Is it? Wow. I mean, just crazy, wild stuff that now is completely available to every physician. So that's part of the excitement I get, is to see new products that come to market that make my job easier, get a patient a whole lot further down the line of, oh, I do understand what's going on. I can keep track of this. And it's cost effective and health effective.
You mentioned that there was a big regulatory change in Europe. Can you get a little more specific about that? Like, what was the big change that happened there that
Oh,
made it,
I'm not a regulatory specialist, so I'm just going to give you a high level.
that's
Basically,
fine.
instead of a single European Union, put down your information, submit it. Now you have to do it to, I think it's 17 or 18 different countries independently. Essentially, what they did was they made it monetarily impossible to gain market there because it's just too much work. The labor intensive nature of the regulatory pathway is nuts. It's just nuts. It used to be easier to go to the EU than US market. Now they've reversed that completely.
So unless you're big pharma with a big balance sheet, it's really difficult to pursue the European
Don't even
market, it
think
sounds
about it.
like.
Don't even waste your time. Let them come to you when they figure out how to fix their problem. Yeah, it's that crazy.
That's
Or
a
big
fair
pharma. Great.
a fair way of looking at it. I want to get back to a bit of the doctor sense earlier, a little bit more of a medical question, but thinking back to how you were able to do it, and if you were giving advice to someone, as a trained doctor, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance and kind of healthy habits while trying to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, let's back up 4 steps. What does that mean? So I'm going to push back pretty hard. I hear, particularly in your age bracket, I hear this business about this. What do you do to balance things? Okay, who are you? I love working. I'm just going to put this out. I love working. I get up in the morning and I have many things that I get to do each day. And I learn something. I interface with folks. It's delightful. It's absolutely wonderful. So I love what I do. And I want to keep doing that. Does that mean that I need to take vacations for 2 weeks here and there? No, 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 no. Balance is what you make it. It is not about this nonsense of, well, you should do X and B and C. Forget that. That's crap. That's just bull. This is no different than diet. You just don't look at your diet as an example. There is no such thing as a balanced diet. Anybody that tells me that, sorry, get real. What does that mean? Now, if you told me you correlated your intake, I'm going to create value with whole foods, plant-based, and then maybe get some other things that work for your body. Sure. Got it. We're all on the same page. Makes sense. Nutrient density's there. Everything, if you're a happy camper, it works, and your labs suggest the same. You now really made a nice fit personalized for your diet. Cool. Then do it. Then do it. But there's no take the book, read the book. Oh, here's the game. No. The nice part with new technology, so we have what's called next gen sequencing for genetics as a good example. The price point to do your exposome is very, very limited. It's very cost effective now. We're not 100%. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to make this sound like personalized medicine is everybody can get it. It's a good deal, but it's really close. And you can feel the traction is coming. But even today, for a couple $100, you can get lots of data set that would tell me, does it make sense for you to, as an example, eat certain products? Are you going to do well with whatever input, be that your lifestyle, alcohol, tobacco, and all those other attachments? Or will they really throw you in the dirt and you're going to crash and burn? You can get to that point these days. So it depends. You got to
Sure.
know the rest of it. It's like anything else. It's the data set. If you got a good data set, we can have a conversation that makes sense. If you are just throwing stuff against the wall, I think we're probably gonna have some problems.
No, fair enough. I think where I was getting with that, just to clarify, I wasn't talking about, like separating work from personal life. I was thinking more like, how do you build something great while maintaining like holistic health? I think maybe that's something that I could have emphasized that a little bit more. But in
Okay.
the sense that, like, are there any habits or kind of any advice you'd give to entrepreneurs who are trying to kind of build a great awesome venture while still having a healthy lifestyle?
Recognize that crap is going to hit the wall. It's going to hit the fan. I guarantee it. It just is. So it's attitude. Your attitude determines your altitude. I'm convinced of this. If you're not incredibly flexible, and I mean that emotionally, physically, and otherwise, then don't do this. Don't do it. Because there are some days that just everything doesn't feel like it's going to work. Oh my God, you can get into a depressive state easily. But what it really is about, look at the big picture. Look at the long term. Little crap in the road, that's life. So what? So what? And I know everybody's heard this, but truly, for an entrepreneur, they're going to have much more of those ups and downs than the average person who's got something that's consistent. You go to work, you get a paycheck, have a nice day. You're not going to have that experience. It just isn't. So, attitude, get up in the morning, and there's the classic saying by Steve Jobs that I have sitting on my desk here that is the only way to do great work is to love what you do. I got to tell you, if it's work, you missed it. If it's, I can't wait to do it, and I'm going to nail it, and I know it may be a hard day today, but all good, you're on the right track. But, I use what I call the smiles per mile index. If you get up in the morning and you still got a smile on your face, and you're like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. You're at the right place. If you're getting up every morning and going, what the? You missed it. You totally drew. You're in the wrong place. Take the hint. I think that's kind of the work balance issue. You don't want to work. You want to have fun. Look, life is short. Go for it. Don't screw around. And if it's not working for you, pivot. Remember, what's one of the things that all entrepreneurs need to know? Just because you think it's going to work that way, Alan can guarantee you wrong. You're going to have a pivot or two or three or five. Totally okay. And as long as you keep learning, you're good to go. But use your smiles per mile index. It's not hard. And are you laughing during the day? Are you smiling? These are easy, simple components that you can easily assess and go, we're doing good. We're on track here, guys. Or I'm out of here. This is the wrong things, wrong time, wrong people. No, it's not that. I don't think it's that at all. But you have to step back some time and you observe it. And also, if you've got a partner, ask them, am I smiling more? Do you hear me laughing? Or am I positive? Having those conversations, or I come home and I bitch and moan. Well, we all have these experiences. Check it out. Did
For
that get a
sure.
little closer to that work balance?
I think so, yeah. I think, this is going to be, for someone who's a doctor, is more probably used to the science, and this is going to be a bit of a more artistic question. But do you think that people try to rationalize too much of like, this is their input and they expect, like, if they do X of an input, they expect X of an output, as opposed to entrepreneurship is like, they just have to accept that rationality. While we try to be rational in everything that we do, people struggle to accept that life is irrational and that the most rational thing they could do is an irrational thing and kind of going for it. So do you think that people don't embrace risk enough when it comes to kind of entrepreneurship and pursuing what they like?
Well, how about we start with the premise? Being an entrepreneur is freaking risky. No guarantees. You think there's a guarantee, you're in the wrong place. There is none. It's just throw that out the window. I think sometimes, and some of this is generational, others is just where you've been brought up and who and your whole upbringing. Some of us has expectations that we're going to be the next zero, we're going to be the next unicorn. Maybe. Likelihood? Come on. Take realize.
Mm.
Do you need to do that? Well, some people strive for that. Okay. And I don't want to take and diminish your potential on that in any way. But realistically, look, life doesn't give you any guarantee under any circumstance, even if you have a plain old job, whatever that may be. It doesn't. So get with a program of understanding, do this miles per mile, figure out that most things actually do work pretty well. And if you put your right foot forward and you move in the right direction, there's a high probability that you're going to do fine. What is fine for you? I mean, you also have to have rational, somewhat, where are you? Are you going to be a bazillionaire? Maybe, not likely, but you need to be. Again, we get back to that. If you made $1 million in your business, would you still feel satisfied? Would you still have a smile on your face? Would you feel like it's a good deal? Well, put perspective into that. Every one of us doesn't need to get to a crazy number, but at the same point, are you having fun doing it? Did you learn something? And can you amplify so that the next time you do it, now we do have a 10x? Cool. I think that's what it is. No, the guarantee gig doesn't come in the cereal box. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, there's not always, well, usually there's, at least in entrepreneurship, there's most of the time no toy in the cereal box. But do you think that it's something, or is there any data? I'm just curious, and I totally understand if that doesn't exist out there. Is there like a percentage of like founders that, every X or every next venture, there's like a bigger chance of success or something like that? Is that something you believe in? And do you think there's any data around there?
There is data on that. So one of the things we asked as an example, and we'll get into this in a minute, with InvestorMatch, and as a funder, what do we look at? Have you done this before? Have you been successful? What type of exit did you have? Same technology? Are you a subject matter expert? All of those components are going to be pieces that we're going to look at. You're going to stumble and fumble a couple of times. Why? It's the nature of the beast. Now, can you minimize some of the stumble? You can. It's called mentors. Back in my day, mentors were about running a gazillion. Forget it. You had that wasn't even the terminology of the day. Currently, people have gotten smart enough in entrepreneurship that they recognize I don't know everything. I'm starting from ground zero. I need help. Ask me for help. Do it. Just do it. It is amazing how much quicker you'll get where you want to go. And remember, you don't know what you don't know. Well, how do you figure that out? Well, somebody else going, dude, this is knowledge that you need to have. It's essential. Okay. And you get up to speed a whole lot faster. So I think from that perspective, there's ways to make changes. Yeah.
So it definitely helps that there's like a lot of entrepreneurs who have been through it and are willing to offer that advice as opposed to 20, 30 years ago when it wasn't as popular.
Oh, absolutely. So when we're looking from a funder's perspective, have you done this before? Have you been successful? What part did you play? Were you a CTO? Were you a COO? What did you do? How did that work? Unequivocally, you will always see in a funding forum, we'll ask those questions because it really does make a difference. Having a track record is absolutely a feather in your cap. And even if you failed, it's still okay. Yes, it's obviously better if you made things work, but realistically, once you learn, what would you do differently the next time?
It's interesting. It's like a lot of the times, a lot of those learnings are on the other side of risk. And even if you fail, it's like even if you fail at doing something, you have like a guarantee of learning something. And the only way you can get to that guarantee is if you kind of have the chutzpah and like the balls to go after it, which is just something I've
Absolutely.
observed.
Absolutely. So that's why I always encourage, even if it seems a little out there, go for it. Again, are you still smiling? Are you having a good time? It may not be a monetary rewarding time, but that's okay. That's okay. Just keep working to what puts a smile on your face. Literally.
So I love that advice. So I'll get into Investor Match as you mentioned in a second, but as I alluded to earlier, you've been fortunate enough to go through two exits. Just from an entrepreneur's perspective, I know a lot of entrepreneurs dream of having that exit. So from someone that's done it multiple times, like when you officially sign those exit documents, what's that feeling like? Is it happiness? Is it fleeting? Like what's going through your mind then?
Well, each one is different. That there's no consistency. And these weren't big VC exits. These were other styles of exit. They feel great. I mean, who's getting who? You got about what it did. It validated. You made it. Cool beans. All right. We kicked ass. We cut numbers. We worked our tail off, and we ultimately got somewhere. Yay! That's cool. That's way cool. Is it? I've never had the IPO exit, so I don't know. Sitting there doing the bell number, etc. I'm sure that has some amplified level of holy cradola. Here we are. Oh my. Um, working on it. Working on it. We've got a couple of projects currently in the pipeline, any of which will be pretty substantial. So we'll see. We'll see. I may still have another couple of those. But
Uh,
it's not necessarily working towards that exit. It's working towards, I mean, some degree of it is, but a good portion of that is also making a technology come to market, which is huge. And that can be tech to med tech to anything. Just making that happen is a really big, wow, oh my, that's huge. So it doesn't have to be the check with however many zeros. It could be, it actually is selling. People are using our stuff and they're coming back to us saying more, love it. That's huge.
Like looking back on it, what do you think was more fulfilling? And you might have answered this, but just curious if you could tangibly say it. Was it more fulfilling to get that exit or more fulfilling to think that, oh, like people ended up using our product and we made a difference in the world?
I think it's the latter. Honestly, it was the latter. I mean, I guess if I hadn't had an income that was pretty darn good, etc., I would probably say there's a question mark here. But for me, it was more, it impacted so many people in so many ways that were, and just the feedback you get. I mean, that's the other thing that a lot of folks may not appreciate. When you really help someone in a medical circumstance, and the people I see primarily have seen a dozen docs, they aren't feeling well. If anything, they're going down. And then all of a sudden they're stabilized and moving forward. And they almost inevitably say something really nice to you that just makes your day. I mean, makes your week, you light up. It's great.
interesting. So it's probably a fulfilling, very pun intended, fulfilling feeling. Twisting my words there, but to see that. So awesome that you guys were able to do that and really help improve people's lives. So I want to shift for a second, and we talked about this earlier, but I want to get into it. Speaking about your newest venture, InvestorMatch.ai, it was born from a lot of professional pain. Obviously, there are a lot of companies out there that are trying to be that middle person with the fundraising process and a lot of innovation in this space, which I think is great for the entrepreneurial community. But on a personal level, what bothers you most about the current fundraising process?
It's the combination of angst, piss off, and upset. I hear it constantly from, and remember, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I hear it from that side, and I'm also a funder. And I hear it from that side. Nobody's happy. Everybody's pissy about their inbox being totally full of crap. Remember, as a funder, 90+% of the asks don't even make the thesis of the funder. So that's ridiculous. Why are you pissing on somebody and they wasting their time? So nobody's going to be happy. On the founder side, our database, as an example for InvestorMatch, is at almost 70,000 funders. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't have time to talk to 70,000 people. Of course, you wouldn't want to do that. You want to talk only to people who make sense, right place, right time, right people. Otherwise, it's just, why are you doing this? You just want to really be obnoxious and piss everybody off? Don't do it. Don't do it. So the investor match gig was all about how do you stop the noise? Well, the essence, alignment. Right people, right place, right time. I know I've said this before, but truly that's what it's about. You know absolutely what you're doing. Well, can we get that data set of information? Who's your team? What are you doing? What's your traction? What's your go-to-market strategy? All of the components that everyone is going to look at before you have an intelligent conversation that says, hey, I really like what I hear. Let's sit down and talk about funding. Well, we collect that data up front. So whether you're pre-seed, going all the way to a Series B, whether you're ideation mode, just thinking about things, or you're IPO ready, regardless of your industry, because it's industry agnostic, and it doesn't matter where you are, we're global, and whether you like public, private, or commercial funding, we have sources for all. We want to connect the dots. And that's literally getting your data set. On a funder side, what are you guys offering? Most funders will, not all, but most will offer some assistance, whether it's mentoring, networking, are they going to make introductions? Do they have subject matter experts? Do they have board members that would be appropriate? I want both parties to have that interaction of alignment. So we bring those two, gathering good data set, we bring those together to say, okay, does this make sense? Should you reach out? Or hell no. You guys are on totally different wavelengths. The funder has a thesis. You don't need it. Well, then don't waste their time or yours. That's the basis of what I saw being an issue in the market on a consistent basis. Why
So
would you want to reach out 100,000 times or however many numbers? I mean, the average founder, we actually do ask this on our intake forms. We're seeing anywhere between 30 to 50 and up to 100 applications. As a serial entrepreneur, I know how much time that takes. I know what it costs, both in terms of time, monies, and effort. Youch. Youch. We don't want that to happen. I want you to run your business. Because think about this. Most CEOs are out there beating the bushes for bucks. Unless you run your business, which can't do that, obviously, unless you're
well, then
physically able to do that, and that means you're funded. So let's find the activity that makes that happen.
for sure. So thinking about what you've been able to do to date, what kind of feedback had you gotten from the funder side and the investor side?
On the funder side, we do automated due diligence first pass. It helps them to reduce their staff. It makes it more efficient. And more importantly, they get to ask you the real questions that they need to know, not the dumb questions that they've asked everybody 100 times because they didn't have the data set. That's one of the big things for funders. On the founder side, we can generate a lean canvas or a business canvas automatically. We can do all sorts of things for you. We can even find competitive analysis, automated Let's help you get to the point where you understand who, what, when, where. Our form intentionally is educational so that you're not sitting there going, I don't know, what's a hole? I'm digging a ditch. No, 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 no. Just hover over. Well, it's educational. Obviously, if you're in a serious circumstance, you're going to fly through the form. You know, you've been through this gauntlet. You know all the details. It's pretty straightforward. But it really makes the alignment much easier for both parties. You're getting what you need. We're getting what we need. We're in a happy media. Let's sit down and have that conversation and see if indeed we want to write you a check.
Well, awesome that you've been able to bridge that gap, and definitely a lot of funders and entrepreneurs certainly have you to thank for that, and you and your co-founders. But I want to look to the future a little bit, even though how difficult it is to predict. And we were talking about this a little earlier, how you never really know what life is going to bring. So thinking as forward or kind of as concrete as we can, if we look 10 years down the line, what vision do you have for InvestorMatch.ai?
We're expanding the platform. We have more AI integration in the pipeline. So as an example, I mentioned the competitive analysis with a fair amount of clarity. And yes, you can use AI right now. You can go to OpenAI or you can go to Work or a half dozen. We found, unlike those approaches, ours has clarity, not only the information that you're needing, but exact data sets that give you who to contact, why, etc. I see that expanding. We're working on a TAM-SAM solution that's coming up. We'll actually be able to automate that. When we think about how much time you as an entrepreneur spend screwing around going, okay, I can AI this till I drop. Now I've got to separate out all of the hallucinatory crap that I got. And it still is that. We actually did a head-to-head, as an example, our competitive analysis. We got so much garbage from literally every one of the different platforms versus, oh, we went to our LLM and it was really nice and clean. Okay. Wow, what a difference. So it's going to get there in time, but do you have time to waste? And one of the things that happens in every investor meeting that I've been in, and I'm weekly in investor meetings, we see the all competitive slide and everybody goes, what about so-and-so? And I mean, it just literally takes the air out of part of the momentum from a founder side. Where we're sitting there, well, what about so-and-so? Oh, I don't know them. Oh, no, bad, very bad. We mean, you know, your competition. Or, well, they're not exactly the same. Well, why didn't you list them? Or they're identical. And by the way, they're your direct competitor. Ooh, this doesn't feel good. So that's one example. Our integration as an example with grants.gov, which is billions of dollars every year of grant money, is just about ready to deploy. So unlike going to grants.gov, which is a bear, and you spend hours, seriously hours, and everybody who looks for SBIR or STTR grants knows this process. Ours is automated. It won't write it for you, but it will find you the right connection and save you hours. Where we're going, I think you'll also see high net worth individuals are expanding radically. There are many more millionaires in the country, and I mean, it's just happening. Wealth breeds wealth. It does. And people are looking for opportunities. We are very much integrated in that direction. So if you're a high net worth individual looking for an opportunity, maybe you want to save the ocean with plastics. Cool. We can direct you exactly to the folks who are involved in that. There's lots of pathways. I can probably jabber for an hour on all the cool things we're up to.
Yep.
What's happening?
Excited to see, yep, excited to see the vision of where it goes. But kind of as we tune down here and thinking about towards your personal entrepreneurial story, just to retrospect a little bit, what do you wish you could have told yourself on day one of entrepreneurship, or kind of when you initially started to pivot from being more of a physician to working more in kind of the medical field as an entrepreneur?
I wish I had had some more mentors. I wish I had some more successful folks that I would have had the opportunity to spend time with to talk to me about what they perceive as my weaknesses, where I could fill in gaps, and also my strengths, how to maximize those. That would have been an amazing opportunity that if I had a way to turn the clock back, yeah, I could think of some characters I'd want in my face going, Alan, don't do this. Do this. And by the way, you're really good at this. Focus, just go down that stream and then keep expanding as you acquire more skill set.
Well, that's some great advice there, and definitely some great stuff that I hope a lot of the young entrepreneurs could take out there. Thinking also for those young entrepreneurs and people starting out their entrepreneurial journey from an earlier age, what's one piece of advice you'd have for them?
I'm going to do more than one, but it'll be succinct. Um, what are you looking for? Keep your eyes open, and everybody sees this every day of the week. What's the problem that people are having that they're just like, geez, I wish, and you fill in the blank, keep listening. One thing that some people have great skill sets is in listening. It takes a little bit of self-control, actually quite a bit, to not want to jump in and just go, but, what? No. Listen. Just hear what they're saying. Because they're out their lives, forget fishing and morning day, what are they really identifying as, this is an obstacle. I wish somebody would fix this. This is a pain. What is that pain point? And the way to do that is to just ask, what do you think? I mean, I know that seems almost way too high level. Tell me what you're thinking. And 99% of the time, it's amazing what people will share with you. They really do have an insight. They may not know it, but once they start yakking, you can get amazing levels of information, and then all of a sudden it starts opening up the door, and then start asking some more people. Are you having any issue with whatever? And you don't tell them what you don't make granular, you just leave it high level, and you listen, take notes. And all of a sudden somebody's literally sitting there like, damn, I heard it again, and I heard it again, and again. This is becoming a little repetitious. Okay, let's look into it. When you start hearing that, there's probably something there. Is it enough to drive it? Don't know. Just keep asking. So good customer discovery. That's one of the things that most entrepreneurs don't do well. They think they have the idea. They're convinced in it because they believe that this is true. It's not about what you believe. It's about what your customer believes. Are they going to hand you some money because you got a solution? Well, if they need it, they will. If it's, it would be nice. That's not good enough. But if it's really pissing them off, oh, damn, do it yesterday. Go for it.
For sure. I'd also involve that needs or kind of while consumer behavior might not change with new technology and everything, I think consumer needs always change. So I think there's always some kind of opportunity out there. So I think that's also something people should take away. To get into the last question here, I feel like I have to ask this as like the golden goose. And I think I'm going to start asking this more often. But do you think that success in entrepreneurship is more hard work or luck?
I think it's both. It's not one or the other. I mean, if you work your tail off and it's the wrong solution, not going to happen. I don't care how good you are and how hard you work. On the other hand, sometimes I hate using that word luck. I think you make your own because you listened a little bit more effectively and efficiently, or perhaps timing was in your favor. Because that's another big piece that you can't. This is one of those non-guaranteed gigs. Who would have thought we had a pandemic and it would have changed literally hybrid work for good? Who would have thought that? You wouldn't have known that, but it did. Who's going to think that the next global crap nonsense is going to change something? Well, it's going to. We know that. Whether it's air pollution and its impact on fetuses, all the way straight through to it's really hot outside. I don't want to live here. Crap. What do you mean my air conditioner doesn't work? Oh no, bad news. These are things that happen, right? Then you have political craziness. I don't even want to go anywhere near that. Who's to say? Well, that's going to change parameters. Then you've got crazy wars happening. Well, okay, so how will people deal with that? So there's no, is it hard work or what? You can't make it happen with exception unless you work hard. So I think that's just given. That's a given. I don't know any successful entrepreneur that won't tell you, I work pretty hard. Now, they may say they're enjoying, and they hopefully will, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, but they are going to tell you that they're not working 20 hours. That's bull. That's absolute
Yeah.
bull. Maybe they get 20 hours of sleep a week, but they're not working 20-hour days or weeks. That's just not the nature of reality.
Yeah.
They work hard. I mean, looking, most people love what they do, and you can feel it. It's that enthusiastic fire in the belly. This is cool stuff. Can't wait to see it come to fruition. That's just the way it is. So look, sometimes timing's everything. Can we time out our life? No, you just throw it against the wall. I mean, that's one of those. There is no, again, we're back to that guarantees. Oh, heck no. There is nothing in writing or otherwise that's going to get you there. But work hard towards it. Persistency makes a big difference. Consistency is essential. On the other side of the coin, also knowing when to stop. You know, if something's just, you're getting nowhere, sometimes you have to step back enough to go, all right, my go-to-market strategy sucks. Oops. Plan B. I hit the wrong vertical. Oops. Let's rethink this. Now, maybe the solution really doesn't solve what they're really asking me to solve. It's not quite what they had in mind, and I need to rethink it. That's what happens. I don't know if that answers your luck versus hard work. It's the nature of life.
It's fine. I love asking that question because I think there's never a direct answer. I'm always just intrigued by people's experiences and their thoughts, and I think people might probably take away, or people will take away more from like a thoughtful answer based on someone's experiences and someone just saying like, "Oh, I feel like I won the lottery," or like I worked my ass off. So I think it's one of those questions where your answer has to be a little more artful than scientific, and I think that's ultimately what inspires or it gets people to be interested in it. But appreciate the answer on that. And Alan, again, thanks so much for the time. An absolute blast. Appreciate all the fundraising advice and all the health advice. And thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. My pleasure. For founders who are listening to this, as an FYI, use of our platform is free. So let's get clear. If you go to InvestorMatch.ai, please enter your information. We'll see if we can't be of service to you. Our monetary circumstance is all about funders and vendors. We've got some amazing people that can help you. And we also, both financially and in terms of services and products. So easy Stevie, InvestorMatch.ai. It's their pleasure. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. It's incredible that I've been able to grow the podcast to over 100 episodes. And fortunately, I'm actually growing on all platforms. And I'm currently raising around for the podcast. So if you enjoyed the podcast or learned anything valuable, then please subscribe. Subscribing helps me immensely and allows me to scale the production and give you guys an even better experience. So thanks for that, and I'll see you next time.